Hello and welcome back, and just as the title card suggests, today I'm going to show you guys how to set up a Windows 11 VM on your Synology NAS. I'm going to be doing a very similar video to this using QNAP NAS, and I might even squeeze in some Acer Store and VirtuaBox stuff later on. But today we are looking at Windows 11. This is kind of the developer beta that's floating around. And before we go any further, a few disclaimers straight off the bat. First and foremost, you can get the ISO of this beta in numerous locations. If you search around, you can get hold of it in a number of different places, even from Windows themselves. If you do go into the back end of your existing copy of Windows 10, you can open up and go into the settings there, and you can search for the Windows Insider program on your copy of Windows 10. Again, not within a VM, this is within your own standalone version of Windows 10. You can go ahead, sign up to the developer program, connect with one of your existing Microsoft accounts. So again, that can be like an Outlook file or something like that. Just basically something you've already got associated with Windows services. And from there, you can go ahead, it'll show you right here at the bottom of this article, directly from Windows. Gotta hate those seagulls, everyone. And down there at the bottom, it tells you exactly how to get hold of the Windows 11 ISO and developer. Now, do bear in mind, this is still an unfinished version of Windows, so consequently, you're not going to see as smooth a running as it is going to be at launch, but it does give you the ability to kind of get a decent idea about what this VM's about. As mentioned, this VM I've got right here, this is running on a Synology NAS. I'm running this on a DS1621, and I will also be keen to highlight that not only am I running this on a NAS with an arguably more modest hardware specification. If we look at the memory there, you're able to see that I'm not actually running a vast amount of memory on this NAS, only 4 gig, and I've dedicated a couple of gig to the running of this VM. But on top of that, this NAS is also doing a bunch of stuff with RAID in the background. I'm bringing a RAID 6 for a RAID 6 DSM7 video, and I'm optimizing volume. So given that the huge amount of resources are being used by the Synology anyway, I'm quite impressed at how well this VM's running. Bear in mind, if you are going to get hold of the Windows 11 ISO, then as mentioned, you can get it from a bunch of places online, but I would say try to maybe stick with the official locations, because the official locations, you can have the most recent version. And also, as soon as these betas and leaked previews and stuff hit the shelves, what you generally find is that people will tamper with them, and you may get one that's got some negativity built in. As you can see, this VM that I'm running right now, some services have been disabled because I've not assigned a Microsoft account, but this is exactly what you're going to be looking at here. And again, the settings within the VM menu, you can go to the right, and you can play with a lot of this, change the screen resolution. All of that can be done within the VM window here. You can port it through if you choose to. Type in remote desktop here, and you can go ahead and connect directly with this VM. Just enter the IP and the login credentials, and then you won't have to go via the web browser, and it will smoothen the experience of dealing with a VM. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shut down this virtual machine here. So let's get the start menu up, and we're going to shut down the VM. And then what I'm going to do is delete this VM and take you guys through the steps on how to create your very own Windows 11 VM. I'm not going to show you where to get the VM from, because most of the sources with which you can get this VM image, VM image ISO for the VM that we're going to use today, you can get from official sources, but I know a number of you will find them from a little bit more open download websites there. So again, you can go for that there. But as you can see, if we go into the virtual machines, you're going to see that the VM is now switched off. I apologize for the seagulls here. I am by the seaside. So let's go ahead, and we're going to kill this VM. We're going to completely delete it. Delete the VM. Enter the password. None of this you'll have to do. I'm just going to walk you through exactly how to do it. So as we can see, we've completely cleared the VM. You can see the resources now that VM we're using at the bottom right are now long gone. I am using OBS during the course of this video, so I apologize if there's any little graphical bumps as we kind of overhit the GPU on this laptop. First thing you need to do is make sure that the ISO that you're going to be using is on the NAS. It doesn't have to be, but it will ask you to either find it on the NAS or to upload it to the NAS. I've dumped it here in this shared folder. You can see it's Windows 11 Dev, and it's an ISO file there of 4.54 gig. And again, just find it from a location online. Again, not going to make any recommendations, and then just drag and drop it into the folder that you want to find later on. So within the menu of Synology's Virtual Machine Manager, which I should add is available in the App Center. Once the App Center is open there, just go into All Packages. It's an official package. Scroll to the bottom of the official packages and you'll find it right there. You just install it completely for free like you would any other app. It sets up nice and easily. But once you've got VM Manager up and running here, go down to Image. And as you can see, I've already got the Windows 11 ISO there, but if I didn't have it there on screen, I would click Add. From there, click From My Synology NAS. From there, select the location that the VM ISO is in, or the ISO of the image we're using. Click it there, and then I would click Select, and then it would appear here. It would compile it and add it and make it available for a virtual machine moving forward. I should also add, zoom in a little bit there, Synology will offer to download and have the ISO, the Synology VMM guest tool, ready to rock for you. That is a separate ISO that Synology offer that's got lots of drivers and easy setup extras for VMs, and it's recommended you download that tool for VM deployment later on. Now you may notice also here at the top it says disk image and DSM image. If you're not using an ISO and you're using a virtual hard disk image or a VDK or a VMDK, you can use other options for uploading images of computer OSs, including Synology's own. So once you've got that image on there and it says it's healthy and it's checked, head up here to the Virtual Machine tab, and up here you can click the down button and you can either choose to import if you have a virtual hard disk, but in the case of an ISO, just click Create. Now what will happen here is you are creating a virtual computer, a virtual CPU, virtual motherboard, virtual everything, and this is what is going to be reading the virtual DVD that we've just uploaded there, that ISO. Now as you see there, it's going to be Microsoft Windows, but there are other options as well. But for a Windows 11 VM, select Microsoft Windows, then click Next. From there, select which volume on the system you want to use. I'm using the main one here. If you add others, make sure that you are running a system that's utilizing BTRFS, because otherwise you won't be able to use the Synology Virtual Machine Manager. Give it a name. So in this case, I'm going to call this one Win11 VM. How many of the CPU cores? Make sure you leave enough CPU cores to run your system. I'm going to go for a straight 2-core of my NAS and 2-core and 2 gig of memory. And again, the system will utilize sharing on the system if you choose. So you can do lots of stuff here to allow more creative hardware resources. And more powerful NASs are obviously going to lend more power to the VM, but that's an option there for you. Then we click Next. From here, it will say how much you want to give the virtual hard disk. I'm going to give this VM 500 gig of storage. If you are using a virtual hard disk, you can attach some of those other ones if you choose. From there, I'm going to go ahead and click Next. As you can see, it's going to use the Synology guest tool in a moment. If you've got a separate virtual network, you can create a brand new one or use the existing network. I recommend if you want this VM to talk to the rest of your existing network, and again, make sure your security is high, guys, then you can just go for the default VM network that's created during Synology's Virtual Machine Manager setup. Now, the ISO for boot up, this is where we want to use our Windows 11 disk. This is so our virtual motherboard and virtual computer reads the virtually mounted ISO, the disk there that we've got. So click that. Make sure you've got the guest tool in the second ISO. So think of that as a second DVD tray. That's got our second ISO in it. You don't have to do it, but it will make setup a great deal quicker and easier. And the majority of these options you can leave as default, even down to the keyboard. But of course, regional differences may apply. And if you do have USB devices that you want to connect to your Windows 11 VM, you can connect some of those available USB ports on your system and actually set up their architecture, so you can make sure that a USB 3 port connects to a USB drive. And if I attach a USB storage drive to the NAS, it will appear on the VM if I select the right port of the 2 ports available here on the DS1621. So I'm going to go ahead and click Next. From here, it's going to tell me which users on the system I want to give access to. So I'm just going to go with the admin for now. But if you've got multiple users or groups, they will be listed there. And from there, it will ask you to confirm the settings that you've made. And go ahead, I'm going to let the VM power itself on as soon as it's finished. Now, the amount of time it takes to set up will differ depending on the power of your NAS. The actual setup of the virtual machine, the virtual computer, is very, very quick. It's the setup of Windows that is going to take a little bit of time. So as you can see, that VM has powered on. So we can go ahead up to the top here and click the connect option, and this will open the VM in a brand new window. Now, the first thing you may notice is these big grey borders on either side of the screen. That's because this VM is going to port, I believe by default, at 600 by 400 pixels. Now, once you've got the VM completed and the installation completely all the way through to desktop, you can change the resolution just like you saw with my copy of Windows 11 in a virtual machine on this Synology NAS. Now, it's going to take a little while. The system is going to auto boot from the first available disk, just like any computer motherboard would. And right now, it is accessing that DVD, that ISO DVD, the DVD image of the Windows setup. And again, while it does that in the background, this will take a little bit of time. We can go ahead and look at that official page. At time of recording, this is from about 4 days ago, and it does go through some of the key features that are available in this early dev release of Windows 11 for testing. It's got a lot of little options there. I do think, like a lot of people, I think this is basically Windows 10 with a little bit of paintwork, but at the same time, all of the innovations and all of the extras featured in Windows 11 take an extra couple of dips in. A lot of them are user interface changes, a lot of them are quality of life improvements, and ones that I think lend very well to having a far more graphical and chewable, user-friendly UI. And again, all of that support there, and of course involvement in Wi-Fi 6E, something we're going to be talking about the channel a great deal more in August. All of those are detailed in a great deal of information there below, and I'll try and link to this in the description. Don't you love seagulls by the seaside? Summertime, guys. So as you can see on the Windows VM window here, as you can see we are still running on the VM. You can see that from the top. It's going to ask us to register some information. I'm just going to go ahead and click next. I know I'm in the UK, but I'm going to go ahead and just let it do the US keyboard. Hopefully that won't be a problem with the @ symbol. And again, as mentioned, the resolution here will be readjusted once you can get to the desktop and you can change with some of these settings. But from here, it's now going to see if we want to create a brand new version of Windows 11 or if we want to use an existing one. Now, you're not going to have a key unless you are using the dev version where you can reuse your existing Windows 10 key. My advice is to go ahead and say, I don't have a key, so you will be using this in preview mode. Then select the version of Windows 11 you want to use. In my case, I'm going to go with Pro. Obviously, depending on the license and the mentioned earlier on, if you're going to use the Insider program, the versions you see will differ. But for now, I'm going to go with Windows 11 Pro. Windows 11 Pro, I'm going to go ahead and click Next. From here, there's the usual T and C. From there, for this option, you're going to choose whether you want to do a brand new version of Windows or not. Because we're running a VM, there are no existing files for us to worry about. So we're just going to go straight ahead and select the install. From the install, it's got the 500 gig virtual hard drive that we talked about that I've created earlier on. We can create a partition if we want, and if we did have SSDs in this NAS, it would make Windows 11 run a great deal faster. But once again, bear in mind, we are pushing this system quite hard with this VM while it's also doing those other things. So do bear in mind that what we're seeing today is not a truly, smooth and indicative version of Windows 11 that you may use on your own NAS. For now, click Next because we're using that area of storage. We're using a fresh, brand new version of Windows 11, and now it's going to go ahead and start copying the Windows files, getting the system ready for installation, and this will take us through to the initialization of Windows 11. I'm not going to make you guys wait around for this. Let's fast forward. Right, so here we are on that virtual desktop. We've done the initialization and now we've just got to go through the setup steps. So I'm in the United Kingdom right now, so I'm going to go ahead and click yes. Again, there will be the slightest delay. Remember, we are still using OBS throughout this video and the resources on that NAS are getting somewhat pounded there. So do bear that in mind. It presumably will be a great deal more responsive for you. I'm just going to go ahead and stick with the US keyboard layout. I'm not going to add another layout there. And we're just going to let this set up to fruition. I'm going to get us through to the desktop on this video, although to be perfectly honest, everything you're going to need to know for setting this up, you're going to have seen already in this video. But I would still hang around if I were you, just to see how to get past a bit coming up soon with regard to registering a Microsoft account. A number of you may be doing this and you don't really want to use your existing Microsoft account, or you've gone ahead and you've used that Windows Insider program and you think you've done enough. You don't really want to go too far. It is worth highlighting that if you don't use a registered Microsoft account with Windows 11, then you won't be able to take advantage of all of the features of it. You will have a slightly more streamlined version. But if you're not too worried about that, then follow the steps I'm going to show you in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead with personal use. From there, I'm going to go ahead and it will talk about the Microsoft account. I'm going to go ahead with the sign-in options. If you try and go from here, you can enter your Microsoft ID, or if you've got a Microsoft security ID. But for me personally, I'm going to go sign-in options there, and then I'm going to go with an offline account. So an offline account, once again, will restrict some of the features, but it will allow you to go ahead and use this in a slightly more limited way, but still take advantage of what Windows 11's got on offer. We're going to add a name there. We're going to go ahead and put Robbie. And it will keep prompting us to use an online account, but we're not going to worry too much about that. Put that in there. We have to reconfirm our password, of course. And then we have to put some security stuff in there. And again, I'm not going to worry too much. I'm just going to put the answer to everything is going to be the word, I don't know, let's just say sandwich, just for the hell of it. Sorry, not too close to my keyboard here. Go ahead and put anything there. Apparently my name at school was Sandwich. Can you tell I haven't had lunch yet? We're going to go ahead and with the next one. And finally, last question there. I was in the town of, you guessed it, Sandwich. So we've answered our 3 security questions to a rather dubious degree, let's be honest. And we can go ahead and make our way through the final remaining steps. A lot of it is to do with data utilization by Microsoft, whether they're going to be using the geolocational data, how much data you want to share with Microsoft. You want to use the settings with regards to Find My Device. But again, this is a beta and we're using it as a VM. So a lot of these we can just go ahead and click no. But if you are interested in getting a more fuller Windows 11 experience, you can go ahead and click yes or browse some of those options to a little bit more detail. And that will tell you a great deal more about what Windows 11 can bring for you. So here we go. It's now implementing a lot of the things that we have requested. I'm going to leave that in the background to do its thing for a short while. It's going to be doing that little splash screen in a moment that says just getting a few things ready. Anyone that's ever set up a Windows 8 or 10 PC will be very aware of these steps. While it does that, as we can see, the Synology NAS there that's still running all that hardware stuff for another video, all that RAID 6 testing that we're going to be doing in a future video. All of that is still happening there in the background. The memory utilization there, let's get in a little bit more detail, shall we? Let's look at the resource monitor a little bit. We can see there that memory, we're using a big old chunk of that for this virtual machine. If we go to CPU utilization, we can have a little look there. We can even have a look at some of the tasks, how much is being used by Synology Virtual Machine Manager there in the background. Let's have a look, where are we at? It's still doing a few bits and bobs there in the background. As you can see, it is using a decent chunk of memory and we are utilizing a quarter of that CPU power there all the way through. So we're going to come back to it there, and this is going to complete our installation here of Microsoft's Windows 11. I'm just going to end on a very similar note to that which I started with. There are several official ways that you can get hold of the Windows 11 ISO or Windows 11 virtual image. And of course, there are ways that if you don't want to go for the rigmarole of using Windows Machine, or if you are not running a Windows platform, maybe you're running a Mac platform or Ubuntu or something like that, and you want to try out Windows 11 to see if now's the time to make the jump, then of course there are numerous sources online that you can get hold of the ISO and the image. Just maybe try to keep it legal, guys. And of course, do bear in mind that the source that you get an image from should give you some indication about the reliability of that Windows image. And of course, finally, at the end of this, of course, bear in mind, this is not the full version of Windows 11. It's not been finished yet. This has to be treated as what it is. It is a beta. It is a trial. It is a taster of what Windows 11 is going to be. So don't make any harsh judgments about Windows 11 based on what you are seeing, because what you are utilizing in this is not going to be fully representative of the finished product. And what I don't want you to do is run a VM of Windows 11 on your NAS with its limited resources at times and call that the full version of Windows 11. But I think I've really hammered that point home, and I do apologize for the repetition. Really what I'm doing right now is hoping that this screen will finish, and I think the fact that the resources are getting battered here and maybe 2 gig of memory wasn't enough to be getting on with has resulted in this VM being a touch slower than I would have liked. I'm going to fast forward now, save you guys watching this same screen. And here we are on the desktop of Windows 11 in our virtual machine. Bear in mind, of course, once again, that we are going to see the slight graphical catch-up here because we're using that VM with slightly fewer resources. But I just want to end right now on improving what you can see here on screen, because by default, it's still going to be utilizing this rather small display. So go into Display Settings by right-clicking on the desktop window here, and then you can increase the size of this. Me personally, I'm going to ramp it straight up to 1980, and that should allow us to get a much fuller screen on this. Once again, if you are going to do this, try to have a decent amount of resources you can throw at this, because I think you will see greater performance overall. Let's go ahead and let that refresh its screen. And again, it looks like we've still got a little bit of room to play with there, but we're going to keep those changes. And there you have it. There is your Windows 11 VM. We can go into About. That will tell us about a copy of Windows 11 Pro, and that will tell us exactly what we're running right now. It can even give us that simulation of what the CPU it's running. It's got that Ryzen there listed. As we can see there, the 2 gig of memory, and you can change that on the fly if you choose. And there is that dev version of Windows 11 Pro. But thank you so much for watching. I'm hoping going to put a guide together for this below, as compares. Otherwise, you can contact me on the free advice section along with Eddie the Web Guy. I hope you found this video helpful. I've enjoyed doing it, and I know at the moment a number of people are still kind of unsure about Windows 11. So I hope this gives you some idea to play with it, and hopefully we can talk about it in the comments whether we think Windows 11 is going to be everything that Windows 10 has apparently been. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Click like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to learn more, and I shall see you next time.